The battle had ended, but Mira, Tom, and their allies knew that peace would not come easily. The Seekers were defeated, but they still lurked in the shadows, waiting for another chance. Meanwhile, the baby inside Mira grew stronger every day, a symbol of hope and change for all living beings. One morning, Mira woke feeling a strange energy inside her. The baby was ready. Tom was by her side, calm but alert. Nara and the protectors stood nearby, prepared to help. "This is the moment," Myra said softly. Tom took her hand. "We will face this together." Mira felt a warm light fill her body. The baby moved strongly, almost like it was calling to the universe. Mira closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The power inside her was like nothing she had ever known. Suddenly, a bright glow surrounded her. The protectors watched in awe as the light grew brighter and brighter. The baby was ready to be born a new life that carried the strength of two worlds. The birth was gentle but powerful. Mira felt peace and joy as she held her child for the first time. The baby's eyes shone with a soft blue light, and its small hands moved with energy. Tom smiled with tears. "Our child is special." Nara stepped forward. "This child is the future, a bridge between humans and the stars." The protectors gathered around, feeling hope and strength. The child's arrival was a new beginning. Days passed, and the baby grew quickly. It showed signs of the powers from both its parents. Myra and Tom watched with wonder as their child learned to use light and energy, healing small wounds and moving objects gently. One day, the child reached out and touched Tom's hand. A warm connection passed between them. Tom felt his strength grow even more. The bond between them was powerful, but the danger was not gone. The Seekers planned their return. They wanted to take the child and use its power for control. Mira and Tom prepared. They trained harder and gathered allies. The protectors promised to defend the family with all their power. Then one night, the sky was filled with strange lights. The Seekers arrived again, larger and more prepared. The battle began. Tom fought fiercely, using his powers to protect Mira and the child. Mira's shield grew stronger, and the baby's energy pulsed like a bright star. The protectors joined. The fight, their powers shining in the dark. The battle was long and hard, but the family's strength and hope inspired everyone. At a critical moment, the child opened its eyes wide and released a wave of light. The power was so strong it pushed the Seekers back, forcing them to retreat. The protectors cheered. The child's power was a gift to all. After the battle, Mira held her child close. "You are our future," she whispered. Tom smiled. "Together, we will build a better world." Nara looked at the stars. The universe is watching. The new. Don, his comarch, was a quiet man who lived on a small, lonely planet called Orin. He worked as an explorer and scout for a distant human colony. Orin was not a very friendly place. Sky was always gray, and strong winds blew dust across the rocky ground. There were few plants and almost no animals. Mark liked this quiet and empty place because it gave him peace. He could think and explore without many people around. One morning, Mark woke up early. The cold wind made him pull his jacket tight. He stepped outside his small home, simple metal hut built from parts brought from Earth. His job was to watch the land, send messages to the colony if he found anything new or strange. As he walked toward the edge of a nearby canyon, Mark noticed something unusual on the ground. There were strange footprints in the soft soil. They were not like any animal tracks he had seen before. The prints were small but deep, with 3 long toes on each foot. Mark knelt down and looked carefully. These footprints looked fresh, maybe only a few hours old. Mark felt a strange mix of excitement and worry. He had never seen an alien here before, but he knew many planets had creatures unknown to humans. Maybe this was a new life form. Or maybe it was dangerous. Mark decided to follow the footprints. He took his small scanner and started walking slowly, careful not to make noise. The prints led him toward a group of rocks near a hidden cave entrance. The cave was dark, but Mark could see movement inside. Suddenly, a figure darted out of the cave. It was a woman, but not like any woman Mark had ever seen. Her skin was pale green, and her eyes were large and black. She moved quickly, almost like she was running for her life. She wore simple clothes made of light fabric, but they looked torn and dirty. Mark was surprised and confused. He wanted to say hello, but he did not want to scare her. Still, she did not stop. She ran toward a narrow path that led up the hill. Mark called out, "Wait, I don't want to hurt you." The alien woman stopped for a moment and looked back. Her eyes were wide with fear. She did not answer. Instead, she turned and ran again. Mark knew he had to be careful. He did not want to catch her by force, but he also did not want to lose her. If she was hurt or in trouble, he wanted to help. Mark moved slowly and followed her until she reached a small clearing. Suddenly, she tripped over a rock and fell. Mark saw his chance and carefully stepped forward. He spoke softly, "I am not your enemy. Please, let me help you." The woman stayed still and watched him with fear. Mark slowly reached out his hand. After a long moment, she let him touch her arm. Mark saw she was shaking, her skin was cold, and her breathing was fast. Mark helped her sit down, looked at her closely. She looked tired and scared, but not dangerous. "What is your name?" Mark asked. The woman hesitated. Then she whispered Nira. Mark smiled gently. "I am Mark. You are safe here. I will not hurt you." Nira looked at Mark carefully. She still did not fully trust him, but she was too tired to run anymore. She closed her eyes for a moment, and then looked back at Mark. Mark saw that she was hurt. Her arm had a small cut, and her clothes were torn. He took out his first aid kit and carefully cleaned the wound. Nira flinched, but did not pull away. After Mark finished, he gave her some water from his bottle. Nira drank slowly. Then she looked at Mark again. "I was running from people," she said softly. "They want to catch me." Mark was surprised. "Who wants to catch you?" "Why?" Nira looked down, her hands shaking. "I am a fugitive. I was part of a group that did important work, but some people did not like us. They want to control everything." Mark nodded slowly. He did not fully understand her story, but he could see she was telling the truth. "I will help you," Mark said. "You don't need to be afraid." Nira looked at Mark's face, and for the first time, she felt a small hope. Maybe humans were not all bad, and baby Mark was different, but deep inside she still worried. She had heard stories about humans capturing aliens and doing strange experiments on them. She did not want that to happen to her. Mark saw her fear and tried to comfort her. "I am just a simple man. I don't work for soldiers or scientists. I just want to help." Nira nodded slowly. She closed her eyes and leaned against a rock. Mark sat beside her, watching the sky slowly change color as the day passed. Though they were very different, two strangers had found each other in a lonely place. And this was only the beginning of their story. The family stood together, ready to face whatever the future held. Their journey was only beginning, but with love, courage, and power, they would change the universe forever. The sun was low in the sky, painting the gray clouds with soft orange light. Mark and Nira sat quietly near the small campfire Mark had made. The wind had calmed, and the strange silence of the planet felt less cold. Nira looked at Mark carefully. She still did not trust him fully, but his kindness surprised her. He was not like the humans she had heard about. Those humans were said to be cruel, cold, and interested only in power. But Mark was different. He seemed gentle and honest. Still, fear lived deep inside her heart. She did not want to be caught again. Not by humans, not by anyone, Mark noticed. Her eyes shifting toward the dark horizon as if expecting danger to come from the shadows. "You don't have to be afraid," he said softly. "I will protect you." Nira's lips pressed together. "How can I believe you? How do I know? You won't hurt me or give me to others?" Mark shook his head. "I am alone here. No one will come unless I call them, and I don't want anyone to find you." Nira watched him for a long moment. She could see the truth in his eyes. Still, the stories in her mind made her hesitate. "I have seen what humans can do," she said quietly. "They take aliens and study them like objects. They don't care if the alien feels pain or fear. They want to know secrets no matter what. Mark frowned. That is wrong. Do not want that for you. I want you to be free. Nira looked down at her hands. I wish I could believe that. But I have run from many worlds, many places. There is no safe home for me now. Mark felt sadness in her words. He wanted to do more than just protect her. He wanted to help her find a real safe place. For now, he said, you can stay with me on Orin. It is not perfect, but it is quiet. We can plan what to do next. Nira nodded slowly. She looked at the small fire and then back at Mark. Why? Do you help me? You don't have to. Mark smiled a little. Because it is right. Because no one should be alone and afraid because ... Maybe I see something in you that is worth saving. Nira felt something warm inside, like a small light in the dark. She did not understand it yet, but it made her less afraid. As the night grew darker, Mark took out a small device from his bag. It was a translator, a tool that could help them understand each other's language better. Nira watched curiously. Mark pressed a button and spoke a few words. The device repeated them. Clearly in Nira's language, she smiled for the first time. They spent the next hour learning to talk better. Mark asked simple questions about Nira's home world and her life before she ran away. Nira told small stories about her family, her work as a scientist, and the dangers she faced. Mark listened carefully, amazed by her courage and knowledge. He realized she was not just a fugitive, she was someone who had fought to protect what she believed in. Nira also asked Mark about Earth, the human colony, and life on Orin. Mark described the hard work of explorers, the hope for new worlds, and the dreams of many people who wanted peace. For a moment, the two strangers forgot their fear and danger. They shared hope and dreams, like old friends. But outside the small campfire circle, the dark night hid many secrets. Nira's fear was not just from the past. Danger was coming closer. Far away, a small spaceship flew silently over Orin's sky. Inside, a group of hunters watched the planet with cold eyes. They were searching for Nira. Their orders were clear. Capture her, no matter what. Nira did not know about the hunters yet. She only felt the weight of the night and the quiet hope she found with Mark. Mark, too, felt a strange feeling, a warning deep inside him. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "Something is coming." Nira moved closer to Mark. For the first time, she did not pull away. She trusted him enough to stay near. The night was full of unknown dangers, but also new beginnings, and this was only the start of their journey. The next morning, a pale light filled the sky of Orin. Mark woke early as usual and found Nira already awake.
Oh.
She sat quietly outside the small hut, staring at the rocky hills in the distance. Mark could see the tiredness in her eyes, but also a new calmness. The fear from the night before was still there, but it was softer now. Mark stepped outside and offered her some warm food he had prepared. "Eat," he said gently. "You need strength." Nira looked at the food but hesitated. Then, slowly, she took a small bite. It was different from the meals she was used to, but it was good. Mark smiled. "You don't have to be polite. Just eat." As Nira ate, Mark thought about what to do next. He wanted to help her, but he did not know how. "Where are you from?" "Nira," he asked. Nira looked up and sighed. "My home is far from here, many light years away. It is called Valora. It was a peaceful place once, full of forests and rivers. But now it is a place of fear and war." Mark listened carefully. He could see how much pain her words held. What happened? Nira's eyes grew dark. A group of powerful leaders wanted control over everything. They forced many scientists and free thinkers to stop their work. I was one of them, they said. We were dangerous. Mark felt anger rise in him. That is not fair. People should be free to think and learn. Nira nodded slowly. I thought so too, but they sent soldiers to catch me. I had to run. I lost many friends. Mark wanted to say something comforting, but he knew words were not enough. Instead, he reached out and touched her hand lightly. Nira looked at him, surprised, but not pulling away. For a long time, they sat quietly, sharing a silent understanding. Mark saw that Nira was brave. She had faced many dangers, yet she still hoped for something better. "Why do they want you so badly?" Mark asked. Nira looked away. "Because I hold knowledge they fear. Secrets about new energy, new medicine. Things that could change many worlds. They want to use that power for themselves." Mark's mind raced. He realized how important it was to keep Nira safe. Not just for her, but for all the people who could benefit from her knowledge. "We will protect you," Mark said firmly. "No one will take you from here." Nira smiled faintly. "You are very kind, Mark, but I am not sure if it will be enough." Mark understood. The danger was real and near, but he believed in human courage and heart. They spent the day talking more about their worlds and dreams. Mark showed Nira his small collection of tools and gadgets. She was fascinated by how simple but clever his inventions were. "Humans are different from what I thought," Nira said quietly. "You are creative and kind. I see hope." Mark laughed softly. "We can surprise each other sometimes." As the sun began to set, Nira stood and looked at the sky. "I want to see your world one day, Mark, the place where you come from." Mark nodded. "And I want to learn about Valora too. Maybe one day we can visit each other's homes." But their quiet moment was broken by a sudden noise. From the distance, a faint sound of engines and movement reached their ears. Mark's eyes widened. The hunters. They're close. Nira's face grew serious. "We must be ready." Mark quickly packed his things and helped Nira prepare. They hid their campfire and covered their tracks. Mark looked at Nira and said, "We face this together." Nira nodded. Together. Though the future was uncertain and dangerous, Mark and Nira found strength in their new friendship. They were no longer alone, and this was just the beginning of a greater adventure. The night was darker than before. The wind whispered through the rocky hills of Aran, carrying a cold chill. Mark and Nira moved quietly through the shadows, their faces tense with worry. They had hidden their small camp and erased signs of their stay still. They knew the danger was near. Far above them, in the dark sky, a small ship hovered silently. Inside, cold eyes watched the land below. The hunters had arrived. They were a tough group, trained to capture fugitives like Nira. They had no kindness or mercy. Mark held Nira's hand tightly. "We need to find a safe place to hide," he whispered. "Somewhere they won't look." Nira nodded. "Is an old tunnel system not far from here. It was built long ago by the first explorers. Maybe we can use it," Mark agreed. They moved quickly but carefully, heading toward the hills where the tunnels were hidden. The rocky ground was rough, and the climb was hard, but neither stopped. As they walked, Mark noticed Nira looking back often, her eyes full of fear. He tried to stay calm for both of them. "We will get through this," he said, "together." Nira looked at him and gave a small smile. "I am glad you are with me." When they reached the tunnel entrance, it was dark and covered with rocks and dust. Mark used his tools to clear the way. Inside, the air was cool and still. The tunnel was narrow and winding. Their footsteps echoed softly as they moved deeper. Mark held a small light to guide the way. Nira stayed close, trusting Mark's strength, but the hunters were not far behind. Outside, the ship sent small search drones that scanned the land. One drone caught a glimpse of movement near the tunnel. The hunters quickly moved their team closer to the entrance. They prepared to enter the tunnels. Mark and Nira could hear faint noises, voices, footsteps, and the hum of machines. The hunters. "We're searching," Nira whispered. "We need a plan. We cannot fight them in the open." Mark thought quickly. There is a hidden chamber inside the tunnels. It is safe and hard to find. If we can reach it, they might not catch us. They moved. Faster, the tunnel twisting and turning like a maze. Mark's heart pounded, but he kept his mind sharp. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. The hunters had entered the tunnel. Mark took Nira's hand. "Run," he said softly. They hurried through the narrow path, avoiding loose rocks and deep holes. The hunters' voices grew louder, but Mark's knowledge of the tunnels helped them stay ahead. After what felt like a long time, they found the hidden chamber. It was a small cave inside the tunnel, covered by a thin rock wall. Mark pushed the wall open, and they slipped inside. The space was tight, but safe. They closed the wall behind them and waited in silence. Nira's breathing was heavy. She looked at Mark with gratitude. "Thank you," Mark smiled. "You are strong. We will get through this." Outside, the hunters searched the tunnels, unaware of the hidden chamber. Their voices grew frustrated as they failed to find the fugitives. Hours passed in the dark cave. Mark and Nira shared what little food and water they had. They spoke quietly. Planning their next move, Nira said they will not stop. "They have many ships and weapons." Mark nodded. "We need to find allies. Others who want to help, not capture you." Nira looked hopeful. "There might be some. I heard stories of a group who protect those like me." Mark smiled. "Then we will find them." The night was long, but Mark and Nira stayed strong. Their bond grew deeper as they faced danger together. When the first light of dawn touched the tunnel entrance, Mark whispered, "It's time to move." Nira stood, ready for the next part of their journey. Together, outside the world was still. Dangerous. But with courage and trust, they would face whatever came next. The sun was rising over the rocky hills of Orin as Mark and Nira stepped out of the hidden tunnel. The air was cold but fresh. The long night in the dark cave had been hard, but they had survived. Now the real challenge was ahead. Mark looked around carefully. The landscape was quiet, but he knew the hunters were still close. Their small ship might have moved, but their drones and soldiers could be anywhere. "We can't stay here," Mark said softly. "We need a plan to get you off this planet." Nira nodded. "I heard about a place, a hidden space station. It's far from here, but it could be safe." Mark thought for a moment. "A space station? How will we get there?" Nira smiled slightly. "There is an old shuttle nearby. It is not used often. If we can reach it, we can fly to the station." Mark's eyes lit up. "That's our chance." They started moving quickly, but carefully toward the shuttle's location. The path was difficult, filled with sharp rocks and deep crevices. Nira walked beside Mark, her steps steady despite her tiredness. As they went, Mark showed his skill and knowledge of the planet. He pointed out safe paths and places to hide. Nira admired his calm and clever mind. They reached the old shuttle hidden in a small valley. The craft was covered in dust and looked worn, but Mark saw it was still usable. "We have to be quick," Mark said. "The hunters will be looking for us." Nira nodded, her face serious but determined. "Let's get ready." Mark opened the shuttle's door and checked the controls. The ship was old, but simple to use. Mark's experience helped him understand the systems quickly. Nira watched closely, her eyes filled with hope. "I never thought I would see a human like this, someone so kind and brave." Mark smiled. "I just want to do what is right." Suddenly, the sound of engines echoed nearby. The hunters were closing in. Mark and Nira hurried to the shuttle. Mark started the engine, and the old ship roared to life. Nira helped with the navigation controls. The shuttle lifted off the ground, shaking as it rose. Outside, they saw the hunters running toward the valley, shouting orders. Mark flew the shuttle low over the rocky hills, trying to avoid the drones above. The hunters fired a few shots, but the shuttle was too fast and nimble. Nira held on tightly, her heart pounding with fear and excitement. She looked at Mark, trusting him completely. After several minutes of tense flight, Mark found a safe path. To leave the planet's atmosphere, the shuttle climbed higher, escaping the hunters' reach. As the stars appeared around them, Nira let out a breath she had been holding. "We made it," Mark smiled. "This is only the beginning, but we are free for now." Nira looked at the control panel, searching for the space station's location. "We have a long way to go, but I believe this station will be safe." Mark nodded. "And when we get there, we will find allies who want to help, not hurt." They settled into the small cabin, tired but hopeful. Outside the shuttle's window, the vast stars shone like promises. For the first time since she ran from her home world, Nira felt a spark of hope. With Mark by her side, she believed she could face whatever came next, and Mark too felt a new purpose. Protecting Nira was not just a duty, it was a chance to prove the best of humanity. together. They sailed through the silent space, ready for the challenges and adventures that awaited. The small shuttle flew steadily through space. Mark and Nira sat side by side in the cockpit, watching the stars pass by. The journey to the hidden space station was long, but hope filled the air between them. Nira looked out the window and sighed softly. I have heard stories about this station. It is a place where others like me can find safety. Mark nodded. Good. We need friends who will help, not hunters who want to capture you. Nira turned to Mark. Thank you for saving me. I did not believe humans could be so kind. Mark smiled warmly. Sometimes people surprise each other. I am glad. You trust me. As they approached the station, Mark used the shuttle's communication system to send a coded message. Soon, the station responded with a friendly signal, guiding them to a quiet docking bay. The space station was large and strong. Built around a bright star, it was a place where many different species lived together in peace. Mark and Nira felt a new kind of hope as the shuttle slowly docked. Inside the station, they were greeted by a group of diverse beings, humans, aliens, and robots, so working together. One of them, a calm woman named Myra, stepped forward. She was the leader of the station's security. We received your message, Myra said. You are safe here. Tell us what happened. Nira explained her story, how she was forced to flee her home, how hunters chased her, and how Mark had helped her escape. Myra listened carefully, her face serious. This station is a refuge, Myra said. We protect those who are hunted. You are welcome here, Nira. Mark felt relief. This was the safe place they had hoped to find. Over the next days, Nira rested and healed. Mark learned about the station's work and network that helped fugitives and shared knowledge to build Peace.Nira, and Mark spent time with the other residents. They saw how different beings could live together without fear or hate. Nira's hope grew stronger. One day Myra invited Mark and Nira to a meeting. We must be ready, she said. The hunters will not stop searching. We need a plan too. Protect Nira and stop them from hurting others. Mark nodded. I want to help. Nira looked determined. I want to fight for my people and for peace. Together, they worked on a plan. Mark used his skills to help build defenses and improve the station's security. Nira shared her knowledge of the hunters' tactics. They trained with the stations. Defenders preparing for the day when the hunters might come again. But even in this time of danger, there was friendship and trust. Mark and Nira's bond grew stronger. They laughed, shared stories, and dreamed of a better future. One evening, Nira said softly, I never thought I would find a friend like you, Mark. Mark smiled. And I never thought I would meet someone so brave and wise. They looked out at the stars, knowing their journey was far from over. But together, they were ready for whatever came next. The stars shone brightly above the space station as Mark and Nira stood together on a quiet observation deck. They looked out into the vast universe, a sea of light and mystery. It was a place full of promise and hope, but also challenges yet to come. Nira turned to Mark and smiled softly. I never imagined I would find safety like this, or a friend like you. Mark smiled back. We helped each other. You taught me about courage and hope. I hope we can help many others too. The space station was peaceful now, but both knew that danger still waited in the shadows. Now, the hunters who had chased Nira were not gone. They would keep looking. Myra, the station leader, had called a meeting earlier that day. She had explained that the station would become a home for many fugitives, beings running from fear and war. They would build a community based on trust and kindness. Mark felt proud to be part of something bigger. Helping Nira was only the start. Now he wanted to protect all who needed help. Nira looked at the stars again. One day I want to return to Valora to help rebuild my home. But for now, I will stay here and help this new family. Mark nodded, and I will stand with you, no matter where the journey takes us. Their friendship had grown into something strong, a bond that crossed worlds and species. It was proof that kindness could change lives. Even in a universe full of danger, the station's residents were busy preparing for the future. They shared stories, technology, and hope. Nira joined them, teaching and learning, building a better place. One afternoon, a message arrived from the human colony. They wanted to send help and learn more about Nira's knowledge. It was a chance for humans and aliens to work together for peace. Mark and Nira looked at each other, feeling excitement and hope. "This is just the beginning," Nira said. Mark smiled. "Together, we can face anything." As the stars continued to shine, Mark and Nira knew their story was not just about escape or fear. It was about trust, friendship, and the future they would build side by side across the stars.